customer wants us to send them an estimate for replacing a pool pump. Let's look at how to do that in HydroScribe. Now, the first thing we need is to make sure we have a service request. A service request is just documentation that shows that the customer requested service from us. The customer can send you a service request using their customer portal, but if they pick up the phone and they call you instead, then just go ahead and add one. Now let's check by going to Task Manager and clicking on Schedule Service Requests. Now I can do the same thing by rolling over Task Manager on the nav bar and then clicking on Schedule Service Requests from here. Either way, you're getting to the same place. Okay, so in my jobs list, I can see that the customer has sent me a service request. If the customer hadn't, I would simply click the Add button to create one. I would put the customer's ID here. You can click on the list icon and select them from the list. And then I would select the type of service the customer needs, and then put in a brief description, scroll down to the bottom and click the Submit button. That would create a new service request. But since I already have one, I'm simply going to use that one. Okay, so now we can start working on the estimate. The estimate is part of what we call a work order. A work order is documentation that takes the entire job and breaks it down into component parts, labor, parts, and the chemicals that are necessary to complete the job, and then assigning the costs to each one of those components so that the customer can see exactly what they're paying for. Okay, let's begin by going over to the right and clicking on the work order button. You will notice that it is a light gray. It's not highlighted because we haven't yet created a work order for this job. These two jobs have a highlighted work order button, which means that we already created a work order for them. So let's go ahead and click the work order button, and it brings us to our work order page. It only has one field, so we're going to go ahead and click in there. And as you can see, we have different components we can add. We can add a labor charge, we can add a part from inventory, a chemical from inventory, or if the part is not in inventory and I want to enter it, I can select the Enter a Part option and then type in the necessary information. And I can do the same thing for a chemical. And then I can also put in some general information that includes additional instructions to the tech. So let's start by clicking on labor. So I'm going to be installing a new pump. So let's start out by just putting in install a new pump. And let's just say it's going to take 2 hours. And I'm going to select my labor type. So I click skilled labor. Now these rates were set up inside of preferences, financial settings. So if you haven't set those up, you can go ahead and set them up so you can use them here. Now it comes up with a $20 cost. The cost is what I'm paying the tech to do the work, and the charge is what I'm charging the customer for each hour of labor. Now, if I want to change that right here, I certainly can by simply typing in the new amount. So I'm doing 2 hours of labor at $40 each. That's what the charge is going to be to the customer. So now I can simply click the Submit button and it adds that task to my list. Okay, we're going to add a couple more. So the next thing we're going to do is after we install the new pump, we're actually going to test it, make sure everything works okay. So we actually have to turn the power back on. So let's say turn the power on, test new pump. And let's say we just simply say that's going to cost 1 hour. Again, we're going to go with skilled labor. I'm going to change that to $40. And I'm going to click the Submit button. And now I have 2 tasks, 2 labor tasks. Okay, so now we've done that. Let's just say I suddenly realize, I needed to tell the tech to remove the old pump first. So now I'm going to add that labor task. So go back, add another labor task. remove old pump. Again, I'm just going with any numbers. And I'm going to go with skilled labor. We're sticking with the $40. And I'm going to click submit. Okay, and the last thing I have to do is I suddenly realize again that I did not tell the tech to turn the power off to begin with. So I actually need to add a task. But this time, there's not going to be a charge for that task. So let's go back and add another labor task. I'm going to turn off the power. And let's just say 1 hour, it's not going to be any charge. I'm going to choose a tech checkoff task. And as you see, it tells you here that there will not be a charge for this. It's just a task that the tech is going to check off when he's doing the job. Okay, so I'm going to click submit. Now I've got all my labor tasks in. However, you'll notice that they're kind of out of sequence. The order in which you see the tasks listed here is the order in which they're going to show up in the text app. And this is not what we want him to see. So we need to put it in order. So we want this one to be the first one in the list. And then we want to remove the old pump next and then do the other two. So how do we change the order? Well, to do that, we simply click on the task. And we're going to give it a number. We're going to start with the lowest number that in the list. That way it ends up in the right order. So I click the submit button and you can see turn off power is now the first in the list. Next thing I want to do is remove the old pump. So we're going to give it task number 2. And then we're going to install the new pump as step number 3. And then the last one will be turn on power and test. So now I have all my labor tasks in the correct sequence. So now I'm going to add a part. So let's pull a pump from inventory. And I can simply choose a pump and give it a quantity of 1. Now, I don't need to enter any additional information because the cost and the charge have been defined in inventory. So all I need to do is give it the quantity and it adds the item to the list. And there's the charge that's been defined in inventory. And just to round it out, let's say we need a chemical from inventory. So I'm going to select, let's say, a bag of salt. Okay, so salt, and I'm going to choose 1 bag. Just so we have 1 of each. And then I add it to my list. And now, as you see, we have the bag of salt there. Okay, so now we have all the items that we need on our work order. But let's just say, suppose I were to add an unwanted task or anything. It could be a task, could be a part, could be a chemical. Let's call it junk. 1 hour. Skilled labor. We're going to go for $40. And we're going to click the submit. So we have this task here and we don't need it. So how can we get rid of it? Well, we simply click the trash can on that line and that task will disappear. So that's how you get rid of unwanted items off of your list. Okay, so now we have all the items on our worksheet. We're going to create the estimate. To do that, we're going to click the estimate button. And it gives you an overview of what the items are on the estimate. And now we're going to take a look before we actually send the estimate to the customer. We're actually going to take a look at what the customer is going to see. So I'm going to click the view print button. and it will show me the estimate that is going to be sent to the customer. So this is what the customer is going to receive in an email. The customer is going to look it over, and if he likes what he sees, he's going to click this link here to approve the estimate. So I look over my estimate, make sure everything is exactly the way I want it, and now I'm going to email this estimate to the customer. So I click the email estimate button, scroll down. I'm going to send both an email and a text message, and I'm going to put in a subject. And it's already filled in an email address for me and a small message. Let's just go with that. So then I click submit, and that's it. Now it has sent the estimate to the customer by email, and I simply have to wait for the customer to click this approve button so that I can move forward with the work. But that's how you create an estimate on a work order, and if necessary, a service request for doing a job.